And your elevator pitch. Who is Chloe?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. So right now I am, as you mentioned, a doctoral student in my second year at UCLA. And so one of the main components of what I'm doing right now is research. So a lot of the research that I'm focusing on is on Black compositions for trumpet, women's music for trumpet, and Black female compositions for trumpet. So sort of three different areas that have a lot of intersectionality, but each, need their own specific, I guess, research tools to be able to navigate what's going on, both in terms of the music and the content, and also, socio-politically as well. So that's one part of what I'm doing. Especially right now, I'm working on a piece by Regina Harris Bioki, that's called Miles Per Hour. I just spent the whole last week basically diving into this. Had to go back about 8 years to remember my undergraduate theory classes, which is fun to go back to YouTube and say, what is set theory? Can you remind me? Just 10-minute refresher, and everything started pouring back. But that's been one of the main things. Has been taking pieces of music, diving into them. Another portion of that was I uncovered or reimagined this piece by Joseph Ballone, who is a Black composer from the classical era. And he had this piece that he composed for sonata and harp that I transcribed for E-flat trumpet and harpsichord. Future transcriptions will be for E-flat trumpet and piano. And I did this mostly because I realized that we have three main works that we play for E-flat trumpet, which are usually the Neruda, Haydn, and Hummel trumpet concertos. And so this is a fun flexibility exercise and sort of virtuosic exercise to make this piece come to life, especially as it was originally written for flute to transcribe that for trumpet. So that's one area. Another area that I've been working on is a new project called Creativity with Chloe, which is basically geared towards creative people, to pair them with resources to know, one, how to develop their creative process, and two, how to share that creative process in, I guess, the format that is best suited for whatever their project is. So these two steps are really important. One, this first step being developing and honing in on your creative process. Part of that is allowing yourself to be in a sort of fishbowl environment to see what else are people doing. And I guess at times to not feel as though we have to always share the finished product. Sometimes the process is equally as enticing or interesting to share and to help get other ideas, and to develop those ideas, not just as an individual, but as a community as well. And one of the sort of reasons that I did this is there's another doctoral student at UCLA, Ellen Schnogel, and she's been doing a lot of video editing and audio editing, and I was really inspired by some of these things of seeing sort of behind the scenes of how this happens, and not just seeing the end product, but she gave a great presentation in our studio class a couple of weeks ago in which she went sort of detail by detail of here's how I, lined up all of this audio. Here's how I, fixed the green screens for this entire project. Here's how I conceptually thought of, this idea from start to finish. And seeing that was actually very, very satisfying. So, and I don't think I would have appreciated the end product as much if I hadn't known what the sort of creative process was that made it happen. So that's one part of it, is allowing us as creatives to, explore that and share that with others. And then the other part is really professional development related. So how's your CV looking? How's your resume looking? A big thing that, especially as a doctoral student, I am preparing to interview for future jobs that open up, and getting myself as ready as you can be for that process. And in doing so, a lot of the professors I've been working with have said, yeah, when I'm on a committee, sometimes you have, a couple seconds to look at a resume or a CV that's placed in front of you and decide, okay, we've got, 100 applicants for this position. Which ones of these stand out? And if you've done amazing work, but you maybe don't know how to best present that in a resume, you might not end up picked, to go to the next round. And it's something that I see as, a tool that we can flex going forward, is sort of raising the bar so that everyone has access to know how to showcase this in the best possible way. So part of it is this professional development aspect, but I guess there's a whole other component, which is navigating the music business world, which is how do you negotiate contracts? How do you negotiate your salary? How do you network with people? And especially as a female brass player at times, it's been interesting. I always feel like I'm one of the boys, in that sometimes a lot of the best networking that I've done have been at the bar with people after a show. And sometimes as brass players, a lot of the networks that we're in are typically all male. That's just how some of the networks have developed over time. And so it's been interesting to kind of get an inside look of, I guess, how to get into this world and how to navigate it. I'm thinking especially of, I took a lesson with one of the principal trumpet players of the Big Five, one of the Big Five orchestras here in the US. And he said, are you prepared to have a career in a man's world? And I thought about that. And part of it for me, I wrote a whole article on this if anyone wants to check it out. It's called How My Ethnicity Shaped Me as a Musician. And I had never thought about being like a woman trumpet player. I primarily am, I guess, more concerned about the race aspect of being a Black female, and what that means for me, and how few of us there are in the majority of the circles that I operate in. And then, like, if you're in the smallest scope, it's like Black women in that community, and then you zoom out and it's women, and then you zoom out and it's trumpet players, you zoom out, it's brass. Like, this sort of scope of how I think of myself, I hadn't considered that question. So I guess part of what I want to explore in this whole Creativity with Chloe project as well is how race and gender and all of these ways that we're diverse in our creativity and that we bring in our diversity to our creative projects, how we can share that and develop that, and I guess also unpack some of the thoughts that we have about it. It's a really long-winded answer, but I have two projects. One is sort of my dissertation work that I'm doing, and the other is Creativity with Chloe, which is also part of it is an Instagram page, but I'll be premiering, by the time this airs, it will already be live, but it's going live on March 31st on YouTube with videos about all these topics. So yeah, pretty excited.